Oh, I prayed for this moment. I can't believe you're finally here. Those words echo like the beginning of a journey that was never just about music. It was about faith. It was about hope. And it was about a young man named Jamal Roberts who grew up far away from flashing lights and roaring crowds. Jamal didn't grow up in a city known for stars. He was raised in a quiet town where the streets were calm, the evenings were slow, and life moved at its own steady rhythm. There were no grand stages. No big industry connections. No glamorous shortcuts. Just simple days filled with ordinary moments that slowly shaped an extraordinary heart. In that small town, music wasn't a career plan. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't branding. It was something much more personal. It was home. From an early age, Jamal felt something different when music filled the room. Whether it was gathered around an old piano, humming in the kitchen, or singing softly during family get-togethers, he discovered that music had a way of expressing emotions he didn't yet know how to explain. When words felt too small, music felt big enough. His family didn't have wealth. They didn't live in luxury. There were struggles, the kind that quietly sit at the dinner table and remind you that life isn't always easy. Bills came. Responsibilities came. Reality came. But inside those walls, there was something stronger than hardship. There was harmony. In the evenings, when the world outside felt heavy, Jamal remembers the way voices blended together in his living room. No microphones. No judges. No audience. Just love. Just connection. Those were the moments that built him. Back then, singing wasn't about fame. It wasn't about charts or trophies. It was about feeling seen without being watched. It was about closeness. It was about that invisible thread that ties hearts together when voices rise at the same time. But even as a young boy, Jamal carried a quiet dream. He wondered, what if his voice could travel further than this town? What if the songs that lived inside him could reach beyond familiar faces? Still, those dreams came with hesitation. Leaving meant risk. Leaving meant stepping away from safety. The comfort of home, even when it feels small, is powerful. It wraps around you. It protects you. And the idea of walking away from that comfort to chase something uncertain can feel terrifying. For Jamal, deciding to audition for American Idol wasn't about becoming famous. It was about testing himself. Could the music that felt so real in his living room survive under bright stage lights? Could the connection he felt with family translate to strangers? Could his voice stand steady in front of millions? That decision was bigger than it looked. Auditioning meant stepping out of backyard performances and into a world filled with cameras, producers, expectations, and judgment. It meant trading soft applause from loved ones for the unpredictable reactions of the public. And his family watched closely. They were proud, deeply proud. But there was also quiet concern in their hearts. They knew that chasing something this big could change him. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that none of them could fully predict. Because success doesn't just elevate you. It transforms you. Before every great spotlight moment, there are small beginnings. Early mornings. Nervous rehearsals. Silent prayers. Doubt mixed with hope. Jamal carried all of that with him as he stepped onto the path toward American Idol. He didn't know exactly where it would lead. But he knew he had to try. And deep inside, beneath the excitement and fear, one quiet question followed him. If he stepped into the light, would he still belong to the world he came from? That question would follow him all the way to the biggest night of his life. The night Jamal Roberts stood on the American Idol stage, the energy in the room felt electric. Lights flashed. The crowd roared. Cameras zoomed in. Voices shouted his name. To the world watching at home, it looked like pure celebration. A young man standing at the edge of his dream. A story ready for a perfect ending. But inside Jamal, it was much quieter. When his name was finally announced as the winner, the applause crashed over him like waves. He smiled. He lifted the trophy. Confetti rained down from above. And yet, behind that smile, there was something deeper. Winning didn't feel loud. It felt heavy. Not heavy in a negative way, but in a way that made him realize that everything was about to change. In that moment, flashes of his past rushed through his mind. The living room sing-alongs. The small-town evenings. The doubts he fought in silence. The people who believed in him before anyone else did. This wasn't just a trophy. It was proof of every sacrifice. Every late-night practice. Every moment he almost questioned himself. But as the cheers continued, Jamal felt something else settle into his heart. Responsibility. Winning wasn't the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a new one. Backstage, away from the cameras, the celebration felt different. There was gratitude, deep gratitude. But there was also exhaustion. The kind that comes after carrying something big for a long time. The world now expected more from him. More songs. More performances. More growth, more perfection. Winning meant that people weren't just looking at his voice anymore. They were looking at his life. Suddenly, he wasn't just Jamal from a small town. He was American Idol winner. That title carried weight. The spotlight that once felt warm now felt constant. There was no stepping out of it. Interviews lined up. Appearances filled his schedule. Invitations poured in. Doors opened everywhere. But with every open door, something else quietly closed. But with every open door, something else quietly closed. Normalcy. Simple dinners with family became rare. Long, relaxed conversations with friends grew shorter. The rhythm of his old life began to fade. Even when he returned home, something felt different. People looked at him differently. Strangers had expectations. Fans projected hopes onto him. Industry professionals had plans for who he should become. And slowly, Jamal realized something powerful. Success doesn't just change your surroundings. It changes your identity. He found himself wondering, was he still singing from the same place in his heart? Or was he now performing to satisfy an image? The music that once flowed freely now carried pressure. Every song choice mattered. Every note would be judged. Every appearance shaped public perception. The freedom he once felt in music began to feel structured. Planned. Measured. He stood at a crossroads. On one side was the artist who sang because he felt something true. On the other side was the winner expected to deliver something bigger. Balancing those two versions of himself wasn't easy. Some days, the applause felt thrilling. Other days, the silence after interviews felt lonely. Because fame, he discovered, has a quiet side that people don't talk about. The side where you miss being unknown. The side where you long for ordinary moments. The side where you wonder if the people who loved you before still recognize you now. And as the headlines celebrated his success, Jamal carried a quieter internal question. How do you hold on to yourself when the world is trying to shape you? As time passed, the first rush of victory began to settle. The trophy sat on a shelf. The confetti was long gone. And Jamal was left with something more complicated than celebration. He was left with the future. Winning American Idol had opened countless opportunities. Record deals. Tours. Collaborations. Growth. But the path ahead wasn't clearly marked. It was filled with choices. What kind of artist would he become? Would he follow trends, or follow his heart? Would he allow the industry to define him, or define himself? In the middle of busy schedules and non-stop expectations, Jamal began to treasure quiet moments more than ever. Late at night, in hotel rooms or alone at home, he would pick up a piano or sit with a guitar, not to rehearse for a performance, but to reconnect with himself. Those private sessions reminded him why he started. The 4 trophies. The 4 titles. The 4 fame. Music was still his refuge. He also began making intentional efforts to protect his relationships. Calling family even when tired. Visiting home when possible. Holding on to friendships that knew him before the spotlight did. Not every conversation erased the distance. Not every visit felt the same as before. But the effort mattered. Because Jamal understood something important. Success means nothing if you lose your roots. There were days when pressure built up, when expectations felt overwhelming, when he questioned whether he was doing enough or being enough. But there were also days filled with gratitude. Gratitude for the journey. Gratitude for the chance to grow, gratitude for the small-town boy who dared to step into the unknown. Looking ahead didn't mean forgetting where he came from. It meant carrying it with him. Carefully. Intentionally. The future remained uncertain. Not every opportunity would feel right. Not every decision would be easy. But Jamal's story was no longer just about winning a show. It was about becoming a man who could balance ambition with authenticity. Fame with faith. Growth with grounding. And as he continues walking forward, one gentle question stays with him. Can he continue to rise, without losing the quiet, honest voice that started it all? Because in the end, the greatest victory isn't a trophy. It's staying true to yourself while the world watches.